We have finally got to the first day of the highly anticipated trial of Karen Reed. Today we heard opening arguments and the first three witnesses. This is a trial day recap on just legal history, and I am your host, Mike. Karen Reed is on trial for killing her boyfriend at the time, John O'Keefe, with her car. She is facing 3 charges: second-degree murder, manslaughter while under the influence, and leaving the scene of an accident. Norfolk County Assistant District Attorney Adam Lilly opened his presentation by going in chronological order, and he said he wanted to lay out the roadmap for the witnesses that he's going to present in the trial. It was a bit hard to understand where he was going, especially since he introduced a lot of new names of people that will be introduced. But I wanted to play a key clip from the key part to me, and that deals with the data for Karen's Lexus.
For this case, you'll hear from Chief Michael Proctor and Sergeant Gary Mechanic of the State Police. You'll hear from Lieutenant Brian Tulloch. You'll hear some testimony from Trooper Joseph Hall. He's in a specialized unit within the State Police called PARS for short, but essentially a collision analysis and reconstruction section within the Massachusetts State Police. His examination of the vehicle, his examination of the scene, his examination of specifically some Toyota texture, because Lexus is essentially owned by Toyota or vice versa. So there is some data that he's able to recover from that and back the vehicle up based on its known locations and travel. He cycles, essentially opines, he'll opine that around 12:45 in the morning when the vehicle was in front of the residence on Fairview, that for some perceptible period of time, that vehicle travels over 60 feet in reverse at over approximately 24.2 miles per hour. Now, we'll hear.
As we can see, the prosecution will present a witness who will testify to the data received from the car, showing that it reversed in a fast manner and then drove away. Next was talk about some of the other forensic evidence that they got from the scene. Next up was the defense opening arguments, and I want to show the first minute, which sums up the main thrust of their argument.
Framed. Her car never struck John O'Keefe. She did not cause his death, and that means that somebody else did. You will learn that it was no accident that John O'Keefe was found dead on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road in Canton on January 29th of 2022. You will learn that at that address lived a well-known and well-connected law enforcement family in Canton, the Alberts. Because the Alberts were involved, and because they had close connections to the investigators in this case, Karen Reed was framed for a murder she did not commit.
The defense points to the next-door neighbor, who is also a police officer, as what appears to be the main alternate suspect. The argument they will present is that John got in an argument with the neighbor. The dog attacked during the argument. John got beat up in a fight to a point where he was unconscious and almost dead, and they put him out in the snow to die. Then one of the friends Googled how long it takes to die in the snow. The defense is going after the police investigation and say that it had tunnel vision and that the investigation didn't want to look at another cop. They pointed to bad texts from the lead investigator saying that he improperly looked at Karen's phone. They will say that the police had Karen's car for 90 minutes, and that is when they broke the tail light and took the tail light pieces to the scene of the crime and planted them. They will argue that if the body was out where it was found, then the people leaving the neighbor's house or the snowplow driver should have seen the body, but they didn't. Nobody saw it until the next morning at 6 a.m. The defense finished with saying that this will lead to more questions than answers, and that the state can't prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. Once openings were finished, we heard from the first witness, Paul O'Keefe. Paul is John's brother. Paul also had a sister who died from a brain tumor. It was the sister who had 2 children that John took legal guardianship up after the parents died. Paul talked about how there was good news that day that John died. The daughter had been accepted into a private high school and that the son did really well on some tests. Then the sad part came, and Paul heard about the news and went down to the hospital and Paul describes seeing John's dead body. He describes his face with bruises and problems with his eyes, and then described the marks on his arms. Paul then talked about how they went back to the house where everyone gathered and tried to find out what happened. Paul talked about how Karen showed up with her father but didn't really stay and talk with the group and left. Then there was a video of him shoveling the driveway, and people were confused at what the prosecution was trying to show with it. The next witness was Erin O'Keefe. She is the wife of Paul, who testified first. She talked about how often she and Paul would hang out with Karen and John. Erin said that Karen would tell her that even if she broke up with John, that they could still be friends. Near the end of her testimony, she said a couple of things that people will see as being off. One was that Karen told Erin that she had to think of things to hate about John. And second, Karen told Erin that the day the body was found, that she wouldn't talk to an O'Keefe again. Definitely odd statements for someone right after a tragedy. The third witness was the first police officer to arrive in the morning. He got a call around 6 a.m. where he was in the church parking lot near the police station. We see the dash cam from his car, and we see how snowy it was that morning. He pulled up to the house and saw 3 women waiting for him. He said that he saw Karen trying to give CPR, and he testified that he saw no footprints in snow coming from the house. The day adjourned with the defense saying that they will cross-examine him in the morning. The trial is supposed to last almost 2 weeks, so we are in for the long haul. I think we are in store for a roller coaster of a ride for the next 2 months, so buckle up and enjoy the ride. And thank you for joining me for a quick summary on Just Legal History.